We have approval of the agenda. Is there any changes desired on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll approve it. We'll do a call to the public. Nobody online?
There are people entering the waiting room, so I'm letting them in the meeting now. One is sheriff and one is our wage study representative, Amy Sal.
Okay,
So I don't see any
Unlikely
hands
to have
raised.
public-
Yeah, likely to have public comment, exactly.
we'll have a-
I want to just check, so I think we are no, sir.
we'll have a second opportunity. The first item of business then is consider approving the annual contract with Secure Alarm Systems Incorporated for the period of October 1st, 2023 to September 30th, 2024 in the amount of $51,120 and authorize the board chair to sign the same.
Hi, good morning. This is the annual, it took longer than normal to get this to you. Because they have a new salesman and getting things straight with the way I like my wording and everything to be the same that it was. It took a little bit, so that's why it's waited till now to get it to you. So, but this did start in October, or the beginning of October. This one went up a little bit, not a great amount, and it's because our equipment's getting older. So the equipment they're maintaining and so forth is getting older, and we need to revamp the system, which I think will probably happen anyway. But this is for all the buildings. It's for COA, other than the public defenders. That's a separate one. COA and trial court and sheriff's department and the county building, which you know what we're under, but they are going to be coming hopefully to remove stuff and help me transport their stuff to keep the others going.
Okay, and the equipment that is aging and needs to be replaced, you're talking cameras and
Cameras and actually the
panic
software
alarms and-
itself. The alarms know and the readers know it's the cameras, they're really outdated. And our software that runs those is really outdated, and they've wanted to upgrade us, but it was held back until the sheriff moves to go for an RFP for a new system for ourselves.
Do you have any idea of the timetable? I mean, is it gonna, we want to do this within a year, 2 years?
Oh, it'd be the next budget. It's
Next
nothing,
budget?
we're not gonna attempt it now, other than we'll see the building all things up, because everything needs to be redone in the building we're vacating right now. So I don't know where it's going at this
Just to kind of get out ahead of it, any idea, I know we usually send out an RFP,
point.
any ballpark figure?
I'm not going there, not with the cost of everything, and it's
Okay.
been so many years since we put one
I
in.
was gonna say,
But every piece of it pretty much needs to be upgraded, from switches to cameras to servers. So at that point, and the software, I was like, I'm not gonna say yes to anything. We're probably gonna go out for an RFP at that point.
do the whole-
Yeah,
So I wonder if any of the equipment would be covered, could be covered under a RAP grant. I know they used to have a ceiling that you could maximally get from MMRMA for that.
50% up to $150,000, I believe.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we looked at before?
I thought it was 100,000 and 50%, but I'm not positive. That's just talking.
But yeah, that is one of their.
Yeah, we could
grants.
look at,
Mhm.
but that will go forth and, depending,
Unless sheriff grabs it.
yeah, so.
2025.
He's pretty good at those rap grants.
So the additional 5,640 is just because they do maintain our equipment. If something goes bad, they,
Yes,
Fix it.
and they come if there's any issues, a reader isn't working, they replace it. And this is for the jail as well, so that they're our highest call volume actually. But with the cameras getting older, they'll put in a camera that will work, because new ones don't work as is. They have to take them back down. I call it dummy down to make them work on the system. So it just became such everything needing to be redone that I was like, we're gonna go out for a price, just to make it fair for everybody.
Commissioner Ember, do you have any questions?
No, she answered what I was looking for. Thank you.
Would you like to make the motion to,
I move to take consideration of approving the annual contract with Secure Alarm Systems Incorporated for the period of October first, 2023 through September 30th, 2024, in the amount of $51,120. Authorize the board chair to sign the same to our work session.
I will second that. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It moves forward. Our next item is considering the annual contract with Secure Alarm Systems Incorporated for the period of October 1st, 2023 to September 30th, 2024, in the amount of $3,336 for the Public Defender's building security, and authorize the board chair to sign the same.
It's the same idea. This one actually went down. We put this system in 2019. And so it's newer equipment, so it didn't see that big hike, because they're quite small, and so it actually went down. And this is for the same thing, the cameras, the readers, all the equipment and so forth.
Okay,
So,
well, this is part B of the
yeah.
system. I will, unless you have questions, Commissioner Bree?
That's
I will move consideration of the annual contract with Secure Alarm Systems Incorporated for the period of October 1st, 2023 to September 30th, 2024, in the amount of $3,336 for the Public Defender's building security legal work session.
second.
It's been moved and seconded to move this forward. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Moves forward.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Michelle.
Director Michelle.
Our third item, consider approving the wage study proposal form in agreement with Amy Sell in the amount of $36,975, not including potential other expenses for travel, FOIA, and post-project consultations pending legal review, and authorize the board chair to sign the same. We have Amy with us. We've had a chance to look at the proposal. Amy?
Yeah, Amy, if you want to share your video. Hello, Amy. I haven't even met you myself yet. So this is fantastic. As the board knows, you saw that we had an RFP we released in August of this year. We only had one respondent to that RFP who joined us at the mandatory pre-bid meeting, but Melissa and I had a great day with that representative who we were able to, I think, relay our needs pretty adequately. He was able to relay, what Amy Sell could do for us. I'm really thrilled that the proposal is within budget and shows that the company has every capability of structuring us a fantastic classification and compensation system. As we know from other requests brought forward right now, our system is broken as is. So I'm really looking forward to hopefully having this study under our belt and something that we can work with, and hopefully if Amy Sell's successful here today, and with moving forward and next week from the full board, and hopefully we'll have a company we can reach out and work with on the reclassification request as well. So that's something that's handled outside of administration. So with that intro, Amy, is there anything you'd like to say or add or talk about?
Well, just very, very excited to have the opportunity to work with you. We've got our planning meetings already set up, and we are ready to go. So just thrilled to have the opportunity to work with you.
Likewise, looking forward to seeing this moved along in an effective and efficient manner.
Yeah, it's very important to us. I mean, we've been dealing with turnover, and I know there's dissatisfaction on the part of our employees on the past program, and we're looking forward to engaging and having a very good study and having a participatory process where elected officials and department heads can have part of the discussion on how this proceeds. I've looked at the proposal. It looks well organized. Looks like you have some depth in terms of experience and staff, and I don't have any questions dealing with it.
And neither do I. I look like, I'm just looking forward to moving this thing forward. So
Yes.
Would you like to make that motion?
I certainly can. I move to consider approving the wage study proposal from an agreement with Amy Sell in the amount of $36,975, not including potential other expenses for travel, FOIA, and post-project consultations, pending legal review, to our regular board session,
To our work session?
the work session. Yeah.
So it's been moved in second. Before I call for the vote, I didn't know if we have a number of staff present. If you've had a chance to look at it, if you have any questions, I'll give you a chance to take the floor on it.
Are there limits on the extra expenses? Is it open-ended?
I would think it's whatever expenses, I don't think that
There's not a not to.
there's no limit.
Associated with it.
And this is, oh, if I
Go ahead, Amy.
If I could. Yeah, so and for expenses, we would get prior approval prior to incurring them as well. FOIA, we have seen some kind of outrageous FOIA expenses, so we would want to bring you into the loop before we incurred anything on that level. If needed, we don't anticipate much, but if there is something that's unusual, we would want to have the opportunity to bring it to your awareness before moving forward on it.
In the RFP document does request that proposers give us those additional ongoing costs. If we're gonna engage them beyond this engagement, if you will, what are the costs of continuing to work with you? So that's something that we do ask them to provide.
Pre-approval.
Mhm.
Have they done other counties?
No, not on our reference list.
Are there other counties, Amy, that you can speak to, having done
I haven't
studies?
seen any of the counties on the reference. I don't know if there are any not referenced.
She probably can't hear them, Chairman.
The question was, have you had experience doing a wage study, classification study with other counties?
Not a full study. I have worked with other counties, Lapeer County for an executive recruitment where I made the recommendation for their administrator salary. But I have not done a county wage study before. We have done municipal wage studies for Bedford Township, Norton Shores, Farmington Hills, and Fraser, City of Fraser.
It's been moved and seconded to move this to the work study. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. We have our work study at 5:30 next Tuesday. I don't know if you can join us in case there's questions that might be posed by other members of the board before we take this to our regular meeting that same evening.
I know I have a conflict on Tuesday at 5:30. I can see if I have another colleague that can attend though.
Okay,
Yeah, that could be
Yeah.
helpful.
thank you.
Very helpful.
It might be as rigorous of questioning as you experienced this morning, though.
Okay.
All right, moving on then to item number 7, which is discussion regarding Isabella County Sheriff's Office and Correctional Facility project funding. Mike, would you like to come up? So, the issue is, we have a budget and we have a contingency in that budget, and we've had some changes in the program moving forward, and we've gained some dollars over time. We've been expending some of those savings and bringing that down, but the concern that was brought forward to us by Mike is that we may not have enough contingency funds for the project, and just wanted to make us aware of that. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, thank you, Jerry. I feel quite comfortable because these two gentlemen are regular attendees to our owner, architect and contractor meetings, which meets every 2 weeks. Originally, I mentioned my concerns to Nicole, and then based on the latest and greatest report that Clark, our construction manager, provided as of last Thursday, there are a couple concerns. The project is, it went gangbusters, fortunately, in the last 2 months. We really made a lot of progress. And the contingency actually had two parts. One part was the so-called buyout that the construction manager actually saved for us when negotiating contracts with the trade contractors. And that was actually the lion's share, about 1.2 million. I'm just talking ground numbers. And the actual contingency, which is a rather skinny item, was, I think, around $900,000. Now, the project as of now is about 35 to 38% complete. But we used up 60% of our overall contingency. In other words, about 1.2 million is already committed, leaving us about 800,000 plus minus. Now, if you look at some of the information that Clark provided us, they are anticipating that there will be these changes going down along the progress of construction, amounting to about $700-some thousand. Now, that's an estimate. It's not; these are not firm numbers. But the bottom line is, if they correct, we're going to be left with about $76,000 for any unexpected expense or errors and omission issues that the architect's plans weren't 100% complete or it's erroneous. So the challenge for us, the county, is to be safe. Number one, to make sure that the county commission is aware of this, so that they're not in the dark. And the second is, what can the commission do to hopefully bolster this contingency? Now, one of the things that, for example, that really we don't have a good handle on is the winter-related expenses. Now, Clark obviously made an effort to put a price on the winter-related expenses for 2023-24 winter. Things like temporary heat, temporary protection, snow removal, et cetera, et cetera. What they don't have, and probably the commission should have a good handle on this, there's a difference between what a contractor calls substantial completion and beneficial occupancy. There's a time gap, obviously. And Clark, coming from the contracting end, did not consider the winter of 24-25. And we're going to have expenses there, primarily the heating the building. And how much that's going to be, no idea. I'm just using it as one example because they maintaining that they're going to finish the job by the end of next year. Maybe we'll be able to achieve substantial completion. Right now, the project, according to Clark, is about 4 to 5 weeks behind the original assumption. It's hard to tell. We certainly made up some time in the last 2 months. But let's assume that they going to have substantial completion by the end of next year. But the sheriff and his entourage won't be able to beneficially occupy the building probably until the spring. But the meters are running: heat, electricity, water, and who knows, snow removal, what else? So where will that money come from? Now, obviously, the question will come up, even from the two of you, well, how much we're talking about? We cannot nail it down. All I can do is to give you an order of magnitude, meaning, is it $10,000 that we need, or is it $1 million that we need? The best guesstimate on my part, and please don't hold me to it, but just to get an idea, I certainly hope that we'll need less than 1 million additional dollars. But I think it's gonna be a 6-digit figure. Now, is it gonna be 100,000, 300,000? I don't know yet, because there are these intangibles. But from strategic planning, I would feel much more comfortable if the commission will say, okay, maybe from such and such a fund or source, we'd be able to come up with another $500,000 if we have to. That would make me very happy, or I'm sure Nicole too. But that's where we stand. Any questions?
So typically, from my experience in projects, the contingency is anywhere from like 5 to 10%.
Correct.
And based on a $48 million project, if we only had 700 some thousand, we're well below that.
Yes.
And I'm sure that figure was set because we were really struggling to be able to establish a budget that the county could afford, which probably gonna come back and bite us in the butt as we move this project forward. I don't know if I would be willing to say that we should be working towards a larger contingency and put that on the record right now. I think we need to try to keep fighting to keep within budget. And if we come up short, then we'll have to deal with it, but with the understanding that we're likely to have some additional costs. But if you put the money on the record,
Right.
someone's gonna say, the money's there, let's use it.
No, this is not the intent to say, well, that you have to come up with additional monies now, but you are aware, I mean, two of you are out at the project, so obviously you have a much better handle of the project than the rest of the commission. And it's just something strategic to think ahead that it is a possibility. Of course, we're gonna try to keep things within what we got now, but just again, from past experience, I don't think it's gonna happen.
So planning to supplement our contingency fund, would that be something we'd want to potentially incorporate into our next year's budget?
You could budget for it, because if you have an anticipated expense, right, you would want to budget for that, but the money would, there's no other fund, right? It's general fund, so
General funds, yeah.
it would come from fund balance. Right now, the board has committed fund balance to the degree that, you know, we're the county's 12%, right? How we're over budget. We have $41.5 million loan from USDA, $48 million project. So that gap is what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
He's talking about additionally, because the gap
Mhm.
includes that budget.
Right.
I can tell you what's been going on since we started this conversation, and I don't know if they want to start their videos or just listen in. Sheriff Maine and Heidi Hitz Kindle from Clark Construction are on. They immediately started talking about kind of more value engineering in a way, but looking at what are the components to come, and are they needed? One of the items is a repeater that was in the budget, that between Sheriff and Heidi, we feel the conversation is, we feel confident that it won't be needed, right? Especially with
Okay.
the hope, we're hoping with the $4.8 million telecommunications tower going across the road from there, it will solve our problems. We don't know that for sure, because, and help me out here, guys, if you would, because the walls are caulked, because the concrete masonry unit walls have caulk between the blocks, then it's harder to penetrate for signal. But we feel confident that those monies might be available to the project.
So when are we going to know whether or not they need the repeater system or not?
Sheriff, do you know when we'll know for sure whether it's needed or not?
So it'll be tight, because the tower project is kind of lined up with the same time frame as the construction of our project. However, I'm pretty confident that it will be done prior. I'm thinking maybe by midsummer. So what that entails is some testing. Now, there's lots of factors there, right? So So the tower's pretty close. It should penetrate very well, even with those walls being sealed and caulked and all that kind of stuff. We anticipate from the studies we've done with Motorola and the state and our local vendor that it should penetrate the hospitals and the box stores and stuff. So I'm very optimistic that it's going to penetrate our building fairly substantial. The one area that it needs to really penetrate is the squad room and office area, which isn't necessarily probably as sealed up as the jail side. We do plan on switching our correction staff to the same radio system. However, they would be using what's called a simplex channel on that radio, which penetrates brick and mortar extremely well. And that's what we've used historically for the fire service over the years for safety reasons. The reason we would switch them to that radio is when they go on a transport outside that building, they don't have to change radios and radio holders. They would just switch the channel and they would be on the MPSCS's repeated talk groups and so forth to be able to communicate. So lots of variables there, but I really am confident that we're going to need very little, if any, enhancements for radio communications in that building. And that, I think that was around, Heidi, correct me, I think we found 250-ish thousand or something. I think that was roughly.
Almost 300,000.
It was about 350.
350, I'm sorry. So yeah, I mean, I think our conversation is appropriate. I'm just thinking we pin it for a short time just to see how things play out. And go from there.
It's a nice, that's just how we need to be thinking about this, though, if there's things that can be carved out with still, not sacrificing safety, security of the building integrity.
But to Mr. Ferber's point, and I'm going to direct this at you, Heidi. I know I've been out there quite often. I know I've been working with you and Jeff and the rest of your folks to try to keep this thing moving along. And if there are any issues that we can help address on your behalf, we're more than willing to step up in order to get this project done so that it's more than substantially complete in December, so that hopefully this, my goal is that we achieve beneficial occupancy before we get into next winter, so that we can avoid all of this. Is that, I realize it's a function of the weather and supply chain issues and things like that. I understand all of that. But I know if we can do anything on your behalf to move this along, again, we'll step up for you, because obviously you understand our financial situation long term, and I think it's very important that we really begin the push to get this thing completed by December of 2024 and get the sheriff in no later than that.
Right. I'm not sure where the 4 to 5 weeks that Mr. Ferber came up with that were behind schedule. I know when we had our OAC meeting last week, you mentioned 2 weeks due to our weather and stuff. So I'm not sure where the 4 to 5 weeks came into play. We do have temp heat for the building this winter figured in our contract. So I'm not sure where that extra cost came into play either. And then for winter of 24 or 25, we will be turning this over to you in December of 24. So I don't see any anticipated winter costs for 24, 25. We did adjust our schedule when we did have that 6-week delay back in the spring. And we felt very confident of making sure we are meeting that date of December 19th. Yes, we've had a very wet October, which we had mentioned before that we had some concerns that we would probably hit this, and we did. We are looking for the next, I think, 15 days roughly a warm up, so that definitely will help. We do have some meetings with contractors to try to see what we can do to make sure that we pick up schedule here because of the rain delay that we had here this past month. Right now, I do not see any push past the December 19th date of 2024. We have, I don't know where, that came into play. So we don't have any concerns at this time. If we get to a point where we have concerns, we definitely will bring it to your attention. But yeah, cost wise, we did take that $350,000 and put that into our buyout line back in there. Could there be possible issues down the road? Sure, if something comes up that's unexpected, we can always talk about that on a case-by-case basis. I think I feel pretty comfortable right now where we're at. Is it tight? Absolutely. But we didn't know that going in when we started this a year ago, due to budget. So we're trying to make sure we catch anything we can, so that way we don't have any future problems. So as soon as we know something, we put that on that list and we review it every 2 weeks. I hope that addressed your concerns and questions. If there's anything else I can help, let me know. If we need to have another meeting sidebar off of this, we can do that as well. Let me know what I can do to help.
I know a project as technical, as complex as this one is, it's hard to foresee all the change orders that might come about to make sure all the systems are working correctly. I will say, as I've looked at the Clark Construction change orders coming to the board for approval, there's nothing there. I thought, that you could have foreseen. Things come up and they're being addressed. And I think you're doing a wonderful job of managing the project to keep those lines in order. And I haven't seen where the sheriff has expanded the project for any reason. I think he's been a good manager to get a workable facility that's going to serve the county for many, many years. And I do appreciate that. The only question I would have now is, I know the loss of time that we had waiting for that Eagle permit for the sanitary. And I don't know what the process is with the township to get all those final approvals, with Department of Correction to get their final approval. Is that something that's being worked on incrementally as we move this project forward? Or do they come in all of a sudden right at the end and do their final inspections that may, again, take months and delay the occupancy of the building?
So as of right now, we have like all our water, sanitary and everything complete with the township. Anything moving forward with the MDOC, we have those on our schedule. And we will be, once we get closer, we will make sure we get those 50% walkthrough scheduled. And then once we get closer to the end of the project, we will be reaching out to the MDOC with the sheriff's help to make sure that they hit our time frame that we're looking for. And then we're going to have county inspections. We will have the fire marshal as well come in, which he's a state. But I don't believe there's anything more with the township at this point. I think we're done with all those that I'm aware of at this. All our water, everything that required the township is complete. So anything is going to be the county, and counties, once we get ready to those, we'll be working with them. And we worked with Pat Gaffney on the Remus Road, and that's been going smooth. So I don't anticipate any other delays. I mean, again, I can't foresee the future. I don't have a crystal ball, but everybody's been pretty good to work with. So.
And I know, Sheriff, this is a new experience for you. You've never had a new building to have to go through, but do you anticipate any problems with Department of Corrections giving their final occupancy okay?
No, I mean, they do a pretty comprehensive review of the plans prior to us putting any sticks in the ground, and they did that and moved us through. We have been in communications with them. In fact, I believe they're going to be on site here in the next few days. As just doing their normal routine, check-ins, along with MMRMA. Tom Kermani, we keep good conversations with him as far as things as well. So I do not anticipate anything on that perspective being a problem.
And Jeff, he just did Branch County too, so he is aware of the inspectors and what they'll be asking for, and to make sure we get them scheduled on time, and so we meet our dates. So,
Thank you.
mm-hmm.
Any other questions, Commissioner Embry?
Just a comment. Thank you both very much for the updates.
Administrator Ross, do you have anything?
No, I think this is exactly why Mr. Ferber is involved in the project, right? It says I don't think it doesn't speak to the current situation as much as his experience, right? And he knows projects take more contingency than we've budgeted. He told me that, I think, on the first day I ever met the gentleman. So, he's doing exactly what we've charged him with doing and letting us know when things, might need more attention going forward. It's not right in front of our face. We do still have some contingency,
Yeah.
but his experience is telling him before the end of this project, we're gonna need more money.
And, I'm not trying to double, guess what you guys doing. We're all happy with Jeff. We're all happy with you.
Yes.
I think we made tremendous progress in the last 2 months. And the concern I have is also the time of the year and the experience with all these different approval process. Never, ever goes according to an optimistic plan. And holidays, December has the holidays. And even if you bring the project to the point that all it needs is inspection, I just by Murphy's laws in our industry, I just don't believe that all these inspectors will jump and cooperate, coordinate, that this thing is done before Christmas. Again, it's an opinion. I cannot prove it, just like you cannot prove final schedule. You guys know what you're doing, and I'm just trying to keep the board maybe I'm always have the tendency to look at the downside of things. And you, as where you are, obviously we have to be optimistic and push the project. So it's not that I feel there's a conflict or that he's lying or exaggerating. No, but I would be very, very cautious about the December date. And it's a multi-purpose building, and we're talking about moving inmates, not nurses and patients like in a hospital. And I hope I be wrong, but if I had to bet about December, I would not bet on it. That's the thing. Understood.
And I know, and Sheriff has told us before too, it's never been his plan to have them in there before year end, right? I think from the beginning, Sheriff has always talked about moving inmates after the first of the year, having time with his staff in that building, right? Having time to get to know the building. And I doubt Christmas is the opportune time to be moving. I would presume there's more visitations during that time. I don't know. But it's always been Sheriff's opinion that he would move after the first of the year.
Okay.
Nicole, that's absolutely correct. We would not try to do that during the holidays time. And I've been to several new jail facilities around the state in the last year. The single most widely thing I hear is we moved too soon, we weren't trained, we weren't ready, it was just a struggle. I certainly would not do that over a holiday weekend or holiday season where I had people off. So it'll definitely be January before we probably get in there with actual inmates.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I just say that we're fortunate to have a good team. We've had also Mr. Ferber, Sheriff's team, and we've got Clark Construction. They've done a wonderful job. As I go through the walkthrough of that building, I'm just impressed with all the thoughts and coordination of the different functions that the sheriff's going to need to have to operate that in a safe and secure manner. So we'll go forward. We'll make sure that the other members of the county board don't have unrealistic expectations, that we don't know what's going to come up, and we'll keep working towards the end product.
Yep. Appreciate the heads up.
Thank you, Mr. Woods.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Sheriff.
Does that mean that you would like the discussion on the work session so that you can update the board?
Just that we can have a short discussion.
Okay,
Yes.
Very good.
Great.
The next item, number 8. This would be a good one. Discussion regarding Isabella County Administration Building asbestos removal, cleaning, and rebuilding expenses. So all this has come at an awful time, and we're already challenged financially for the county and having to look at a millage. And somehow we need to find out short-term, how this is gonna impact us, and long-term, how this is gonna impact us, where we're gonna get the money to take care of the asbestos, the cleaning. And now we know the ductwork probably is gonna come down, that's gonna be an additional cost. If there's gonna be any cabling improvements, because we're now in a new century, and instead of just having willy-nilly cabling, we need to be able to plan that, get that in place. Fire suppression. My understanding is we now need to look at fire suppression, so all these are gonna cost significant amounts of money. I guess I'd start the discussion just directing it to Administrator Frost. Do you have any ideas at this point?
So at this point, yesterday we released an RFB for the asbestos abatement. The bids are due November 8th. So we will know fairly soon the work you're describing to abate the asbestos, to get the asbestos, remove it from the building. That is one cost that will probably be known on November 8th when we receive those bids. There's other costs clearly on top of the abatement though, right? Some that you just mentioned, the rebuilding. Once the abatement contractor removes the asbestos, then we paint, we put flooring back in, we put ceiling grid back in, we put ductwork back in, right? There's so much to coordinate after the abatement work. We'll coordinate it to start concurrently with abatement if it can on certain floors, or as soon after abatement can. So the rebuilding are costs as well that are still, the scope of that is still being known. And we just learned from the specs of the RFB that the ductwork will need to be removed, right? The ceiling tiles will need to be disposed of. The ceiling grid needs to be disposed of. The flooring will need to be disposed of. The lighting, they might clean and let us reuse. That's hardly it's hardly a shot in the arm there, but another expense we're looking at is relocation, right? And that's probably the most critical one. It is the most critical one. We're working hopefully by the end of this week to determine a location that we can move to. Originally, we were looking at 6 months. That's kind of hard to negotiate. Rental terms for 6 months, more likely looking at hopefully securing something for a year to give us time. But as we learn more about the building, and we learn more about where the asbestos is, like it's the caulk for the ductwork, we now know contains asbestos. That's why we know the ductwork has to be removed. We're looking at chases, elevator shaft, right? Different things. And this is all in that RFB. So we'll know soon a cost for that. And you have to wonder when we look at those costs and then add the rebuilding, you have to wonder what our options are. Right now, we're looking at leasing space for a year. We're finding square footage prices that would probably make that lease. I don't really want to say an amount out loud, but it's definitely 6 figures for the year, right? To rent a place. And so we'll have that expense. We'll have, somebody pointed out, we might have some energy savings at the county building, to offset, but we still have to light the building and heat the building while it's being abated, right? So I don't know really how much savings we're gonna have there, but it is interesting to work on trying to coordinate this relocation. And when you look at our county building, I believe is 27,000 square feet. And when you think about how much storage we have in there versus actual office space, we're not looking for a 27,000 square foot office building, right?
Office space.
Right, we need office space and we need storage. We're working with departments right now to consolidate their office materials, consolidate files, please, shred what can be shredded, recycle what can be recycled. consolidate filing cabinets and then physically measure the filing cabinets, right? What needs to be stored long-term and you don't have to access it, because then we can just stack them together, right? What needs to be accessed over the next 6 months? What files do we need to have with us? So those are some of the things we're working through right now to even come up with what's the price tag? Can we find a place we can all fit in, or do we have to rent a couple places, right? There's some restrictions we're finding out, right? That who has to work together, who can't work together, who needs a key to access and only they can have the key kind of thing, right? We can't put prosecuting attorneys in offices with other people. We can't have our HR specialists making phone calls about people's personal things in a room like this with others. So we're working through that, and the costs just aren't known yet. I do know, as I reported to the board, this is not something that insurance covers. MMRMA is fantastic, but this is a pollution rider that we don't have, and I don't think that they even offer. So that includes things like relocation expenses. Usually your insurance would cover things like that. It's not.
Yeah, I remember when our consultant was talking about removal of asbestos and the fact that we had probably asbestos in the wall cavities themselves, and removing one face of the wall to be able to clean that.
That's right.
Well, they're gonna be spraying the ceiling to wet that asbestos, so keep it from being airborne.
Mhm.
They're gonna wet the other side of the wall, and is that drywall? I'm trying to think, is it gonna be damaged where we need to take off both faces to begin with? As part of the RFP. Might have to give consideration to that, but as we move forward, we know there's gonna be some significant costs.
Mhm.
And cash flow is a concern to me. Are we gonna have enough to continue paying payroll on all our bills? Because we're now having to divert more money. We're gonna have to start paying up front. Do we need to take a look at a bond to, for X amount of dollars? Is that feasible? And is that something we need to get moving yesterday?
Yeah, I think the way the RFB is set up, that the abatement work is 50% upfront and 50% upon completion. So I don't know that bonding would work for the upfront part, because it depends on how soon we need to do it. The other thing is, if we can relocate into a place we have for a year, maybe that puts a pause on this, why we look at all our options like that, what all is in the mix, right? Instead of just get the bids, go forward, move, do this. Maybe we need a little more long-term planning with a broad county leadership involved in the meeting.
Pace ourselves.
If we, yeah, I mean, the immediate need is get out. We did. Now we have to relocate
We're out,
somewhere we can function.
employees are safe.
Then we can breathe. Sorry for the pun.
No, that's true.
So we see it right now. We'll probably keep this on as a discussion item, I would think, regularly going forward, so we can talk about where we're at.
Yeah, but each of our work sessions needs to be on the agenda.
My biggest concern is, I know we have these, we don't know what the costs are. But how do we continue to pay our bills in the short term? Are we gonna run out of money? I don't know. That's something
No.
the treasurer's office or.
I mean, money gets tight around spring of each year, right? Because we're halfway, 3/4 of the way through our fiscal year before we start to get our county operating levy, which is more than half of our revenues. But the clerk is functioning and bringing in revenues. I know Register of Deeds is not able to process passports yet. So we're losing revenues on that type of thing, but as far as taxes, treasurer's still collecting taxes. People can still come here and pay their tax bill. Community development is still issuing permits, right? Trial court is still issuing fines and fees.
So as far as cash flow is concerned, we're still operating as normal. Now, the issue becomes,
spent a lot of money recently.
Yeah,
You know,
but
to,
The cash, at least as far
to
as the
get
cash. flow is
scanners
coming,
and printers and, you know, things like that when we couldn't even
Right.
access the building.
But from broader perspective here, cash flow is coming in, it's this 50% upfront. Depending on the cost of the, the RFB, I mean, that's gonna be a hit, and where does that come from? I
Right.
mean, That's gotta be a
So,
discussion.
so then so I would suggest we don't knee jerk to just spend that money of fund balance, but to have the conversation of,
Uh-huh.
is the building worth that?
That's where
right.
I'm going.
Can we sell the building? Do we have to abate before we sell? Look at the Borden building, right? City Hall turned that was a contaminated facility. I think, I don't know what was there, but they definitely rehabbed that into a governmental facility. So what are our options? Is there something for sale that is cheaper than the abatement?
Right.
Is that money better spent right now?
Right.
And then we can deal with the county building when we can. Again, get relocated and get functional.
And then be prudent.
Like we do try to be, yeah.
I think that's important. I
Yeah.
think that is.
We also have a building next door we're gonna vacate in a year and a half. So
Mhm.
now we've got 2 large buildings downtown that. These are options. I just don't think. We should be pressured to make, if we're out of the building, relocated and functioning. And again, we're not yet. We're out of the building. We're partially functioning. And we're. Somewhat temporarily relocated.
Mhm.
So we get those things down.
Mhm.
Buys us some time to think, and those will happen, that will happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
So at the end of November.
Oh,
by
absolutely.
Thanksgiving.
Yep, we'll have movers, right? Facilities is not going to move all the furniture, all the file cabinets, all, right?
Yeah.
We'll have to hire a mover. Movers will help us do that. Right now, we're just getting organized of what gets moved, where's it gonna get moved to? We do have a special board meeting. I know you've all been contacted about it on the 14th, so it's our off week. Not our off week, but our in-between board meeting week. So we've scheduled a special board meeting for noon after committees 2 weeks from now. So I think we'll know a lot more then. We'll know more next Tuesday, probably for the board meeting, but that special board meeting on the 14th is specifically to talk about this and our options, and probably more meetings to come.
Right, because the RFB is due on the 8th,
Yes.
so
So
we should have most of our information compiled and.
yeah, originally the 14th meeting was set because, oh my gosh, we gotta rush and we gotta get this RFP out and we gotta get the bids back, and they're gonna be back on the 8th, so we can look through them a few days, and then let's have a special meeting on the 14th to decide who gets the contract. Why? If we're out of the building and we're relocated and we're functioning, why?
I hadn't thought about that, and I
Yeah,
do
with you.
appreciate you.
Same with her. Hey, we have options. You know, so let's say it comes back and we're looking at $1.2 million. Are we better served to take the 1.2 and put it somewhere into another building or
Right.
relocation or what? I think it will give us time to really think this through in the best interest of our taxpayers.
Exactly. There is there's a shining star. I have help comes in odd form sometimes, right? But I will say John Ingraham from Johnson Controls reached out with a connection at the state for asbestos abatement funding, maybe through the brownfields program at the state. And they've worked with others who have connected with that. So I've got a contact there that I'll be reaching out to see are there monies available for asbestos abatement. He's also suggested that they've been successful in other projects they did at getting money from Congress, men and women. It's an avenue too.
Okay. What if I call over to Jim McBride, MMDC, if he might know of a resource that might be available? I guess I'd take any comments from our gallery out here. If anybody has any comments about how things have been going and any concerns that you may have that we haven't already considered. Anything? Steve?
I'm, gonna say the obvious and obviously. For us here in this wet October it's pouring now for us at the county. A lot going on and I'm sure everyone is very overwhelmed with everything they have to do. I would like to see on this wage classification study a little more discussion on what's going to be required by this company and what we need to offer them, because we're going to need to put our best foot forward for this. We just did a study that we paid money for, and we're doing another one pretty quick. And if this one fails to give us what we need, it's going to be our fault. So we can't lose focus of that. And if it takes fact that, you know, every director is, you know, got to look over every single job description, we should probably be doing that. So I just want to, you know, bring us back to center towards, you know, our needs, you know, are across the board heavy, and there's a lot of work ahead, but don't lose sight of those smaller things that are really important for the future as well.
Well, I agree 100%. I think this wage study is critical, and it's a big ball, not a little ball. It's a very big ball that we need to keep our eye on and not lose sight.
If it's going to be successful, it's going to take as much work from us as it is this company. We can't expect to just succeed because we've hired them.
Right, exactly.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Yes, Karen.
So for our office, obviously, our table that we share with the treasurer's office, it is extremely crowded. We have townships that need files that we have to give them. They have to have those files in order to make the changes. For the year, we can't give those to them. I have the ones we finally were allowed to get into the office last Friday afternoon. I have some files in my car. When they come, I'm going out to my car to get them. There is no room at the table for that big box of files. And so then, you know, you're going out there, getting in the car, trying to get those. We are not able to, at this point, print the ones that are current because there is no room to put those files if we did print them. Because then we'd have to haul them out to the car, somebody's car, put them in a file. We have no room to have the files that we're required to give them. At the point of 30 days, equalization has to have all of the files. We have to print copies of every document that transfers property. Also, so does each township. At this point, we're doing the best we can. There is no room for any more equipment where we're at. It's not Michelle. Michelle can't put anything more there. Sometimes we go down a couple times a day because we're taxing the area that we're in. There just is no more space. We dance around each other all day. I am very pleased to hear the idea of spending our money wisely as we move forward. I think that we've gotten ourselves in position many times prior where we rushed and tried to take care of an issue and not made wise financial decisions for the long run. And that's where some of our problem lies, why we're at the place that we are. I am looking for yesterday afternoon, Mark had thought he had a place for our books and film and things, and I was advised that that was not going to work, what he thought we were going to be able to use. I did reach out to some of the contract people that I know have a possibility of someplace. Of course, there is an expense to that. We have to wait. They're working on pricing. one of the expenses that, is incurred is the moving from here to there. And the books that are in what we call our book room and the microfilm and all of that, they could store, and it's only because I found a company that has already done the projects with books. They're now doing indexing from ARPA. And so the area that they had for microfilm and books is empty. And so they would be able to use that area to store things. And it's the temperature and humidity controlled spacing, space and area. But they put it on pallets and things for the storage. Because we wouldn't be accessing it, they've already given me a discount. I'm like, come on, guys. They've already given us a discount for that. One of the conditions is that they, usually they do the moving unless we're willing to do the moving to their truck and then put it on their pallets, because that is some of the expense. Part of the problem with that is it can't be done obviously during the rain, because then the books are damp and they can't take damp books into their area or damp microfilm into their area with a regular microfilm and books, because then that puts everybody's books and microfilm in there. Our room was at 65, humidity was at 65. Thank goodness that the temperature dropped. We are now down to 35. So when I called them, I was able to report that the temperature in the book room was 35 at that time. And so they could accept it. If they come into our building, I would have to send them the report that shows that the air quality is safe environment for them to come in. Obviously, if they have to send their hired workers in there, so. But they still have to work out some type of a proposal. They have given me some amounts for what it would cost for a year. Because that's what I went for, because it's no more for a year than it is for 6 months.
That's
So I
kind
said,
of what
give
we're
me the
finding.
year price, because I can't guarantee I'd be out in 6 months.
No need to rush them either.
Right. And besides, my thought was, even if I'm going back in 6 months, I don't know for sure that that room would be ready for the books. That would be,
Right.
we could put that on a lower priority. And Betty and I went through and removed anything that didn't have to be archival from the room, so that we wouldn't be charged for anything that we didn't have to be charged for.
Okay.
I do think there's a plan in place yet today to hopefully move the register of deeds out of the boardroom.
We have heard that. How many?
There's supposed to be 2 spots opening up. I know they're keeping 1 person on staff here so everybody knows that they've moved their location. But
Sure,
other than
makes
that,
sense.
they have 2 spots.
We need to hurry and get a permit spot. Security wise, we're digressing instead of progressing. We need the file cabinets that we have. We can't work out of folders and boxes. There's no room to put 1 or 2. They just get bigger.
Yeah.
We've got a losing a person in the treasurer's office due to marriage and move home. So we're getting short-handed as well, but we need to solidify that spot where we're going to, so that we can just try to operate and try to catch up.
Back to square one. So be 100% functional.
Yes, that's the critical path right now, is getting getting a place where we can relocate.
Thank you for your comments. Madam Administrator, what do you do with your free time anymore?
Well, I can report, interim deputy, Melissa and I were working 12-hour days before this hit, so it's been a little rough, Chairman.
I imagine. So, yep, keep us abreast of especially the finances and let us know what action we need to take to keep the county financially safe.
Yes, and prudent, the prudence of it, I think, is important. And I don't mean to say it's just Melissa and I pitching in here, right? Michelle, I doubt you've gotten much
Sure.
rest or other things done in the last few weeks. And obviously Director Griffiths has been nonstop with his attention to this matter. And everybody is really pitching in under really tough working conditions. It's really tough. You don't have your resources with you. You don't have your private space. You can't have a private conversation. It's been hard. It's been hard on everybody.
This has been an exceptional period of time for the county, and it's impacted its operations, its staff, and I'm not sure that you could look back in history and say that Isabella County has had this kind of experience in the past, so.
You're right. Some people liken it to COVID, but this time we're in it in ourselves. There's no commiseration. You know, at least in COVID, everybody was in it together and everybody understood and was sympathetic and commiserated. Certainly, a lot of our vendors have been very, very patient with us. All the AP checks were cut last week and out, but there was a delay there, right? And so then you've got the extra work of all the calls, either incoming or outgoing, to vendors who deserve to get paid. Which is a good segue to the
Paying the bill.
non-existent invoice list discussion, right? Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have this on the agenda then, just a kind of a recap.
Correct. So what will happen is at the work session and regular meeting, they'll have an adjustment list, correct?
Well, I'm
Or-
talking the discussion about the asbestos abatement.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, that'll be on.
Yeah, we'll have that permanently on
Okay.
there, I think.
So, sorry to interrupt you. I knew I didn't have my invoice list here, and got my telephone out and I was trying to,
There isn't
Okay.
one,
okay.
right? There, and it'll just be, so we couldn't, the day that we left the building, was Thursday, October 12th. Checks did not get cut that next Friday, that day. They would have been cut that day. They did not get cut until,
Thursday.
you know, 20, right.
So all,
We didn't have access to our check stock, you know.
all of those checks that got cut will be on an adjustments list. I'm not gonna give you 20 pages of an adjustments list, but it's gonna look more like an invoice list. What it's gonna be, I'm not gonna call it an invoice list, because it didn't come those previous Fridays. They were adjustments that we went ahead and paid from, I put it in the description, from this date to this date. These were cut without you gentlemen seeing those necessarily on an invoice list, but you will see them after the fact, very similar to the adjustments that you see. Just in larger formats. You're still seeing them. It's after the fact, and if you do have any questions, if there's something you know, looks wonky, not everything, but almost everything can be fixed. We can reach out, we can void a check, we can reach out to a vendor, but I don't know, I don't think in my 9 years here, there's ever been an invoice on the invoice list that you said, absolutely not, do not cut that check. So I'm hoping that that doesn't happen with the adjustments, we'll see there, but we'll see if there's any questions.
So the process is a little different. At the end of the day.
Only because we didn't have any invoice
Correct.
lists, right? The
Yeah.
process really is the same, because anything that doesn't go on in an invoice list, you gentlemen see on that adjustment list. Anything we change, add, remove, anything from that invoice list, any changes, that's what the adjustment list is for. So instead of creating an invoice list that we didn't have, we're just making it all an adjustment list, because it's all adjusted.
So we'll still have time to see it ahead of time, and
Oh, yes.
we're gonna look it over and have questions and.
That'll be the only thing you have for approval on your Wednesday. You won't have any invoice lists. It'll just be that one adjustment, or will they have invoice lists from the week prior?
I just did my first invoice list since the closure this past Friday,
Okay.
which got emailed out on Friday.
Mhm.
We'll cut those checks on Thursday. After, I guess, after this meeting, everything will go back to
Back to
normal
normal.
as far as
Just as-
every Friday an invoice list. And every other-ish Thursday, the adjustments list from that. It was just this one time, the adjustments list that comes next time
Yeah.
is gonna be a big one and look not like a normal. It's gonna look more like an invoice list.
Okay.
One time. So,
Okay, so one,
Yes,
yeah.
okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
yes.
Okay. Well, we're down to announcements. Remember? I don't know if it's an announcement, just a question. I brought this up before. The opioid settlement funds. I know we've been working with the Mount Pleasant Area Community Foundation to set up a permanent endowment
Yes.
to those funds. I know you got a lot on your plate. I don't know if it would be the type of activities that we need to go ahead and transfer those funds, unless those funds have some way to come into play in our financial, but I think those are dedicated and can't be used for anything else. I'd like to, sooner than later, get those transferred to the foundation so that we start the clock. We don't have to approve any grants for any particular period of time because we still have to set that all up.
Mhm.
But I know the foundation said there is a waiting period before those funds could become available.
Yes.
And we could look at that agreement, bring it before the finance committee for review and take it to the county board for approval
I
to get
know
those funds set up.
the community foundation has shared with me their fund agreement, which I shared with the opioid
Right.
work group. I also shared that with legal counsel, so they are currently reviewing it. And a bigger question than we thought, they'll give an opinion to us on it, but they're wrangling right now with the concept of settlement dollars are supposed to be spent on opioid remediation, and what we're considering is not spending any of the money, right? Because we're saying, let's save it and as principal and use only the interest off of it. So I was a little surprised, but legal did come back, say we're gonna take some time with this and really look at it. There are other counties that are doing it, so I think there's some precedent to follow,
Okay.
but that's why that hasn't. Otherwise, if legal would have said, okay, you'd have seen it on your agenda today to move forward. So right now, I don't have the thumbs up from legal on the document.
So they'll be reviewing with the state,
Probably, yes.
because I know MAC has looked at it. They didn't have any concern, but they're not legal.
Correct, yes,
So-
correct. And I know we've gotten recently a connection with the Attorney General's office, specifically about opioid, all the local meetings that have been going on and the AG's local presence at those meetings has given us some new resources in this regard. So I think if AG blesses it, it will be good,
It's pretty
but
good.
that's the level that we're looking at now.
Good.
I agree. And you're exactly right. The community foundation, once we get this established, they'll set that annual spend that we're allowed. And the annual spend we're allowed to spend is all based on the past, I think, 8 quarters. So the sooner we can get money to them, the sooner our quarter balance isn't 0. It'll be something, and the
Yeah.
sooner that we can get some grants out the door, we can.
Yep.
So
So-
I've let him know it's the intent of the board to make this funding stream last and prolong through time. That's your intent. So we'll find a vehicle to do that, whether that's the community foundation or not. He suggested, maybe the treasurer can hold the funds instead of community foundation, if that's the crux
That's
of
the
it.
crux, yeah. Did you spend the interest? No?
Mhm. Right.
Okay,
We'll see. More to come.
We have options,
Mhm.
possibly. Okay.
so did you have any announcements this year?
No, sir.
Do a final call to the public then?
Just one comment, so I do not want to get into Heidi, but I asked Jeff, what's the status of our schedule? How much did we make up from these last 2 months when progress was really good? And he said we made up 2 weeks. So, I just did that rough math and I mentioned we're 4 to 5 weeks behind, so I didn't just pull it out of the air. I didn't want to get into an argument. So that's what, that's.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it. So, any other comments from the public? Then we'll adjourn this meeting of the Finance and Administration Committee. Thank you for coming, everyone.
Adjourned. Well.